Yeah, we need to talk about payment processors again because the fallout from all of the interference is still unfolding across the industry. We've got some devs on Steam being cut off from early access funding. There are devs using PayPal having a lot of fun, like as an example, one dev claiming that their £80,000 is being held hostage. But the pushback, thankfully, is also real, because right now, in the UK, Australia, and Canada, governments are facing public pressure to, well, regulate this payment processor BS. But there is a thread I've got to mention that I've got to call out, and that is people just saying, oh, well, won't really impact me, I don't really care. It's a bit like when people say, oh, I've got nothing to hide, therefore that privacy law isn't really that important. Now, I'd say, if you think this won't impact you, sorry, but I really think you are wrong, especially when we run this experiment across time. This campaign means that huge chunks of the world can't buy games, any games. And when that sort of thing is happening, no one escapes the effects, because even if you don't know they're impacting you, they are, because they're systemic effects that are industry-wide. And that's just one reason why this matters. You know how we live in the Torment Nexus? Well, one little feature of the Torment Nexus is fun things like your insurance provider getting hacked. That actually just happened to people with Allianz Life Insurance just recently on July 16th. What happened is the hackers used social engineering to breach the third-party cloud system and get personally identifiable data on the majority of their 1.4 million customers. And things like that are why I use today's sponsor Incogni, because they're our way to fight back. You see, when data leaks, data brokers exist to harvest that data and sell it on. So if you ever wondered how that spam caller got your number, it's often that, actually. And Incogni solves this problem by automating the legal work that you would otherwise have to do. And the best news is you can join at incogni.com/Bellular News with 60% off the annual plan on my link. Now, here's how it works. Get ready. You enter your information, and that's it. It'll just go do everything. You see, you've got the legal right to have your data taken down, but that takes hours and it's not permanent. So once Incogni's got your stuff, they automatically scan all the brokers, they send takedown requests, and they add you to the suppression lists. They do that automatically, and they continually rescan so your data is kept down. Just look at my dashboard, 206 sent. 4 in progress, 202 completed, and I'm on 23 suppression lists, which is pretty goddamn good peace of mind. At incogni.com/Bellular News, you get 60% off the annual plan, so just check them out using my link today. If you missed our latest videos, well, here's the short version of what happened. Payment processors demanded changes to Steam and to itch.io. But not just that, they fundamentally altered how adult content gets processed, and they've set a terrible precedent for how art can be sold. itch.io, as an example, is still dealing with an incredible, humongous workload, where they're just having to re-index all of their adult works. They're also having to find new payment processors who will accept adult content, and they have loads of devs who are real frustrated with the situation. Over on Steam, well, Valve have delisted many games. They've also changed their rules completely, such that now anything a payment processor does not like can't be sold on Steam. And the inciting incident, I suppose, where this all comes from, it's groups like Collective Shout, where they essentially object to all, air quotes, exploitation media. Legal or illegal, it doesn't matter to them. It's essentially based on, I guess, personal morals and distaste, which they are totally okay to have. But, it's whenever they try to make them be the morals and the tastes that the rest of us are kind of forced to live by. And they're just one example of groups who are pressuring payment processors. And these processors, well, they're happy to restrict creators from the financial system. We all kind of know that. So happy that, in this story, they're allegedly withholding £80,000 from a dev. His crime was that he worked on one of those nudie games. Tut tut. Let's talk about the 80 grand. It's what one dev has had held in PayPal whenever PayPal froze his account. PayPal basically asked where the money came from. It's a sort of question often asked for financial crime purposes. Now, the dev said that it came from, quote, programming work on video games. Well, that wasn't enough. PayPal dug deeper. They asked for a store page, and when they discovered it was adult content that was legal in the United Kingdom, they refused to release the money. Yeah, because someone who did programming work on a product that's legal in the UK, PayPal? No, can't use that. And the reason why is that it broke their terms and conditions. You see, their rules say any activity, quote, that relates to transactions for digital adult content is a violation. So, getting paid for work on an adult game does count, even if you're just, say, programming the liquid physics. Yeah, so that counts. This isn't really a new thing. It's actually been happening for years. It's one of the reasons why, in this space, nobody really likes PayPal. PayPal even limits accounts for creators with adult Patreons as one example. They withhold payments from creators quite often, and usually it only gets fixed if your complaints go viral enough to, say, warrant a review from Business Insider. And if you think that's oddly specific, yeah, it is, because that's what it took to recover $90,000 in one particular case. And unfortunately, what happens is that the options are continually narrowing for these people. As an example, our developer with the 80 grand locked in PayPal, well, he's being debanked by multiple UK banks. They simply say that it's too risky. Now, you may think that that doesn't affect you. You're not buying or making adult games. But here's the thing. Valve gives us direct evidence that these demands go way, way beyond adult games. Back in July, Steam confirmed something shocking. PayPal's acquiring bank, which is the one that processes the payments, made a new rule. And it's one you've probably felt, because it was that they would no longer accept Steam transactions in most currencies. They would only accept them in British pounds, Canadian dollars, Australian dollars, American dollars, and Japanese yen. Sounds like a currency problem, right? Maybe it's about refunds and conversions. No, it's not. Steam told Rock Paper Shotgun the truth in the matter, that this is, quote, regarding content in Steam related to what we've previously commented on surrounding MasterCard. What does that mean? Well, it means that anyone trying to buy any products on Steam through PayPal will get punished. And it's all because payment processors don't like legal adult content. I think the words legal need to be emphasized. This is not just about like fringe illegal stuff. This is about mainstream legal stuff. Pretty bad. And for developers, this is another disaster and what's just been an avalanche of bad news. Seriously, it's just been bad. As an example, another thing in Steam, which is early access. Anna Valens flagged what multiple devs discovered, which is that Steam is denying early access to adult games. For the developers involved, this was obviously a bit of a shock. They had spent weeks going back and forth with reviewers at Steam, and nobody mentioned this limitation. But now they are locked out from launching store pages. And that means not just money stuff. No, it means they can't generate followers. It means they can't build wish lists, things that are important for how lots of games are made. And here's what's weird. This isn't even a consistent thing. You see, Rock Paper Shotgun found denials as recently as 2024, but SteamDB shows games released in early access after that point. Games with adult content, that is. So it's all quite strange. Steam's review process page hasn't changed publicly. Since April 2019, adult-only titles needed both store pages and a product build completed for review. Now, Valve warned that it might take a bit longer than 3 to 5 days. I could make a lot of jokes there, but I'll leave those aside. But nowhere does it say that early access is not an option. So this is strange. Something has changed. Valve have not announced the change, though. So if you're making a non-mature game, sure, you can use early access, do whatever you want. But the moment your game might be objectionable on adult grounds, the second it may have a nipple, the restrictions will kick in. Now, this isn't just an annoyance. Things like early access often function as a lifeline. It basically helps developers fund their final development push. That option is now gone for adult devs. That's yet another revenue stream cut off in a world where, basically no banks or payment processors seem to want to touch them. So, what options do we have as a public, especially if our concern is not just what's happening now, but if our concern is also the direction of travel? As an example, there's a snippet I often brought up regarding MasterCard, where basically their rules talked about what is genuine art. And I don't know about you, but I don't think MasterCard should be the people judging whether something is or is not art. No, I think MasterCard should be processing payments. Remember the change.org petition from last time? Yeah, change.org. So a noble effort, but it only gained 20,000 signatures since then. What's actually been more impactful, though, is quite good. It's regional petitions. These have actually cut through, and some of them are getting significant backing. In the United Kingdom, 7,500 people have used the government petition system, where they're demanding that legal content be protected from payment processor bans. Now, we've covered the UK petition's limited power with, say, the Stop Killing Games case, but hitting 10,000 signatures does guarantee a government statement. That's progress. Obviously, if it gets more signatures, then you will maybe see some more progress. Links will be in the sources below. Now, over in Australia, well, the Australian Parliament is facing a different petition. They want antitrust investigations on the same grounds. And with over 6,000 signatures, it's the second most active petition right now. And what's funny is they only need 50 for a response. Well, the one that could be the most interesting is actually Canada. And the reason why is that their petitions need authorization from a member of Parliament before going public. Now, they only need 500 responses. The good news is they've got 11,000. And their petition requests transparency, better creator rights, and an end to financial discrimination by payment platforms. Okay, what will these petitions achieve? Look, I don't exactly know, but at a minimum, they will force recorded government responses, which in itself is a little useful at least. They're all things being framed around legal content being restricted as well, which certainly helps. The UK and Australian governments have already got online child protection laws, and Canada has been trying to pass one of their own for a few years now. But this thing is different. This is asking whether payment processors are above the law. Because again, we're talking about legal content. And to go a little further, yes, it's the case that, yeah, these are like private businesses. However, we do actually have a lot of legal precedent over things which would be called public utilities, which of course still can be private for-profit businesses. Or public businesses, of course. But basically, if you are a utility, then you're treated a little bit differently. Perhaps you remember all of the net neutrality discussion from years and years ago. But the most important part for now is awareness. Here's a quote from ex-Japanese assemblyman Zenko Kurashita. He told Dan from Mimiko Gamer via automation this quote, "Precisely because it's made so hard to see, I think most people don't perceive how serious a threat this is. And the companies are exploiting that lack of awareness to maintain their power, which is not healthy." That man is right. The people most affected by this do not have power. They can't go on nationally recognized outlets. They can't bend a leading political representative's ear. So payment processors keep shutting down art in all forms. Because that's the thing here. I'm not asking you to like these games or play these games or anything like that. But the point is, their rights are also your rights, even if you don't like what they're doing. So even if you don't like what they're doing, you should still support their rights, because those rights are also your rights. This is a very important concept that I thought we all understood as of like 10, 15 years ago. These days, I'm actually not so sure, and that is rather depressing, and it's a part of why this video exists. So the consequences of something like this reach everywhere. Now, the ongoing campaign to do things like jam call centers is actually quite good, because that causes direct operational problems for these companies. That's definitely a good thing. But without highlighting this to people with power, without reaching mass audiences, well, they'll just keep doing what they've been doing. It's times like this where having a press is rather useful. So, hello. That's us trying to, do our job. Because in a world where those who facilitate financial transactions care number one about risk and PR, not legality, guess what that does? Systemically, it means that things will be more safe. And it seems the direction of travel is not positive. So even if you don't like these games, I think you should care. These companies are doing this without a thought for the artistic consequences, without a thought for the impact on customers, without a thought for the impact on society, on culture, and on the future, because the only thing they are caring about is short-term, no bad PR, and more money. That's it. And sadly, this is just one of the many ways in which devs can be harried and messed up. And if you want basically an antidote to all of this, check out the story of Team Cherry in this video next.